I opened the first chapter of my book on Israeli culture with a conversation with Michael Stephens. Michael was a master's student and today he is a senior advisor for military and security affairs in the Middle East at a Royal London Institute called RUSI. We walked out of the classroom together and suddenly Michael told me, "But you're a crazy people. Every second sentence with you is, if we are here next year. I cannot think of London not being next year. But with you it is every second sentence. So maybe every second sentence is an exaggeration. But the Israeli existential anxiety is indeed at the foundation of Israeli culture, politics and diplomacy. It also underlies military policy and secret activities of the State of Israel, the Mossad." In another article, I presented 4 elements of the Israeli existential anxiety. There is a mythological element engraved in the Book of Books and in the stories of the biblical heritage. There is a historical basis, the pogroms committed against the Jews, and the hatred to the point of trying to exterminate all of the Jews during the Holocaust. There is a current foundation, the constant threat and promise of Iran, Hamas, and the Islamic Jihad to eliminate Israel. And the 4th element is a future vision. All 4 elements are intertwined and activate each other. They establish in the soul of Israelis both existential anxiety and the Zionist answer to it: never again. What transpired during the Holocaust will never happen again. And here, 3 days ago, it happened again. The gruesome images from the Holocaust era came to the minds of many Israelis. Shockingly, their government failed to such an extent that Benjamin Netanyahu's repeated promise, "never again," who said that under his watch Israel is safe. Well, it turned out that Israel is as safe under his government just as the Jews were protected in Germany, the Netherlands, in France, in Belgium, in Poland, in Ukraine, in Italy, in Hungary, and even in Greece. Yes, this week a Holocaust happened in Israel. Not a Holocaust on the scale of the Holocaust, but rather in the Israeli experience of helplessness. An experience that you have no one in the world, neither Netanyahu nor his government, neither the Israeli Defense Force nor the police forces, nobody was coming to protect the citizens of the State of Israel. And what came to mind at the sight of the horrors was the Holocaust. Last night, Michael Stephens sent me a message. Know that Michael grew up in the Emirates. He knows the Arabic world. He knows ISIS, he knows Hamas, and of course, he also knows Israel. There are no experts like Michael, experts who see the picture of the Middle East from all sides. But last night, he wrote to me in despair. Here are his words. "Sometimes things happen that make everything change. Every feeling and instinct you have gets torn apart. I've spent the last 48 hours desperately trying to understand what I've seen. I've been in Iraq when ISIS massacred innocents. I've been to Syria and Lebanon. I've seen it all. However, despite 15 years of experience begun under your guidance, I cannot understand what I am seeing. I thought I understood, but now I realize that I now understand nothing. I've not been able to put words on paper. Every 20 minutes, someone calls me asking, what happens now? Where does this end? And for the first time in a while, I don't have answers. Literally none. I remember you telling me that you had a similar moment when the towers fell in New York. I feel like everything I assumed I understood is actually incorrect. I agree. This is a moment that sociologists call a turning point. Sociologist Andrew Abbott from the University of Chicago explains in a book called Time Matters that societies operate on some historical trajectory, on a continuous line of motion across time. But there are moments in history when the line is broken, in which discontinuity occurs. It means that what transpired before the event and what continues following it is of a different nature, a different conduct, a different policy. And Michael Stephens is right about this instant recognition. We are probably at a turning point in the history of the State of Israel. I don't want to discuss right now the question of what Hamas has done to the fate of its people living in Gaza, because prophecy was given to fools, especially since the fool in front of you is not an expert in Islamic studies, and in Gaza in particular. I can only say a few words about the Israeli turning point. Let us start by saying that Israel is not only in shock of Netanyahu's government malfunction, but also in unprecedented breakdown of its values. The performance of the government headed by Benjamin Netanyahu is so shameful to the extent that Israelis are ashamed to admit that they are Israelis. They are ashamed because the people in Israel were educated on existential anxiety and the promise of never again. Because while studying the horrors of the Holocaust, to the point of traveling to the slaughterhouses in Poland and Germany, they also practice self-defense, Krav Maga, making sure that it will not happen again. But it happened again. In their own sovereign country it happened. In their country, with nuclear bombs that can destroy the entire world, with the stealth aeroplanes and bombs penetrating any target. Yet with all its might, the soldiers of Hamas, like the Nazis during the Holocaust, stood and slaughtered innocent Israelis and made clear to the Israelis two things that would hence constitute a historical turning point. First, things cannot continue as before, that Netanyahu's government has come to an end, that the security forces had proven to be most unreliable, and if the reports from Egypt about an incoming invasion are correct, then the Commission of Inquiry will ask Netanyahu if he betrayed the State of Israel and its citizens. And this is not a question anyone dares to put on their lips right now. But this is a historical moment in which questions arise and governments fall. But this is in the short term. In a much longer view, it is quite clear that there will be changes in the Israeli borderline, in the arming of Israeli citizens, in their right to carry weapons for self-defense, in the training of citizens for days of battle. Yes, there will be dramatic changes in Israel, and I've only brought up a few of them right now. But from this moment on, Hamas and the Islamic Jihad, Hezbollah and Iran will connect, will solidify in the Israeli consciousness to the history of hatred of Israel for generations. The images of the massacres will also be associated with the atrocities committed by the Nazis. And with the Nazis, no country made concessions. The leadership was repudiated. So if I know anything about Israeli culture, then it seems to me that what will happen soon is what Prime Minister Golda Meir ordered after the massacre of the athletes in Munich on German soil. Not one, neither the planners nor the performers, will be left with their heads on their shoulders. So if I know something about Israeli culture, I think it is something the Israeli public will ask for. And the Nazi-like regime in Gaza, there will be no more such regimes. Michael Stephens is right. These are hours when we experience a terrible vacuum. Sociologists call it anomie. You have nothing to regulate your thoughts, and they run through your head in thousands of different directions. But as Andrew Abbott said, we are probably at a turning point in history. Well, the prophecy was given to fools. Written on October 10, 6 a.m. Israel time. Until next time, I am Professor Gad Yair.